Hi everyone, it's Valerie and welcome to my vlog. If you've been watching, I've been doing a pre-cruise vlog for the last 3 weeks and this will be my fourth one. Just to recap, we're going on the Oasis of the Sea in January, at the end of January, beginning of February. It's 8 weeks away now, and each week I'm doing a pre-cruise vlog to talk about different parts of the cruise and how I've booked them and what we've booked. And this week we're going to be talking about excursions. And last week we talked about shopping in the ports, and there was one other thing that I wanted to say about shopping in the ports that I forgot to tell you, and that is to bring cash. On the first cruise that I went on, I didn't bring a lot of cash with me. I thought, I'd just charge it on my credit card or my debit card or whatever. And when I got home, I noticed that there were a lot of bank charges, something about $4.50 a piece every time I used my debit or credit card in the ports. And I'm not sure if it was the credit card or the debit card or both of them, but I do remember a $4.50 charge each time I used my card in the ports. Not on the ship, but in the port areas. So just a warning, instead of getting all those charges, bring some cash with you. There is a safe in your room, in your cabin on the ship, so you can keep your money locked in your safe. It'll be safe there. I try to budget myself and bring a certain amount that you can spend in each port, so that way you know what you want to spend. So now going on to excursions. When Steve and I go on cruises, we love to take excursions because they're new places. We haven't visited them before, and we like to experience something about each of the islands or the places that we go to. So what we do to book our excursions is we go on, each cruise line has a website. So once you've booked your cruise, the website, you will create an account for you, or you go on and create your own account. But anyway, it'll link your reservation to your account, and you can go onto your reservation on the cruise ship website, and you can book your excursions through there, and any other activities that you want to do you can book through their website. So what Steve and I do is we go onto the cruise websites and we look at all the excursions that are available in each of the ports that we'll be visiting. And he'll write down the ones that interest him, and I'll write down the ones that interest me, and we kind of compare our list and decide what it is that we want to do. If there's not a lot that we see that we like, there is another option to not go through the cruise line, but to go through somebody else. You can look for companies that will have excursions listed on the internet, and you don't have to book through the cruise line. There are advantages to booking through the cruise line. If you book through the cruise line does guarantee your excursion. So if something happens and the excursion doesn't happen, like when we were in the Bahamas, the weather was really bad, and we had booked a catamaran excursion through the cruise line, and because the weather was bad and it was too windy, they weren't going to go out, so they did refund our money for that, and we got to choose something else to do. So you do have that guarantee. Also, if you book your excursion through the cruise line, they will wait for you and they won't leave you behind when the cruise goes to leave the port. So those are a few good reasons to book them through the cruise ship, and you can always change them too. It's easy to change them. If you decide for some reason you don't want to do them, the cruise line will let you change your excursion to something else, or cancel your excursion. If you're not going through the cruise line and you're going through a private company, not guaranteed through the cruise line, you're kind of like gambling that what you're doing is something that's creditable. We did, on our first cruise, we did go off on our own a couple of times, and it happened to be good and bad. One of them in St. Kitts, we wanted to do some horseback riding, but we didn't really find what we wanted through the cruise line. So we went and we searched it online and found a company that did it. The man that, it was his home, he was very nice, came picked us up from the ports, and he took us to his home, which was very, very nice experience. It was raining that day, and so we kind of waited on his front porch with him and to see whether or not the rain would let up, and if we could go out horseback riding. It was an awesome experience because we kind of got to hang out with some of the locals that came over and talked with us, and got a little bit of taste of the culture that we probably wouldn't have gotten if we had booked through the cruise line. The bad part of the excursion was I don't think we would have gotten our money refunded had we not gone horseback riding. We did go, and I was not really happy with the horses. The horses were very small, and we're larger people. I mean, we're not tiny. And I just felt like the horses were very small for us, and the paths were wet and muddy, and the horses, I was afraid the horses would slip because we were very heavy. And so it was kind of scary doing it. We did, enjoy what we could of the excursion, even though, the horses were small and it was kind of muddy. But, the experience in itself was okay. That's just, a chance you take booking outside the cruise line. The cruise line would have known that maybe the horses were going to be smaller horses and had weight restrictions, or at least gave you a little bit of, option. Another thing we did do on our first cruise, we were in St. Croix, and we didn't book through the ship again. We booked an ATV excursion, and we loved that. The guide was very knowledgeable, was very one-on-one with us. It was just the four of us on the excursion with him, my son and his guest and my husband and I. And we got really nice treatment. We saw a lot of the island going through ATV. He showed us a lot. And we really, really enjoyed that excursion. It was probably one of our favorite excursions on that trip. So, booking through the ship or booking on your own, I mean, each way, it's kind of a gamble. Booking through the ship is probably safer, but it's totally up to you what you want to do. Don't forget, the tour guides expect to be tipped. We did notice in some places more than others, after the excursion was over, they do talk about, don't forget to tip your tour guide. One place even sat us down and gave us a speech about tipping tour guides before they let us go. And we kind of felt like it was being very pushy. But we did leave a tip, even though, we just felt like that they were really being pushy about tipping. But it is nice to tip tour guides, especially if you're having a really good time and they're treating you very nicely and showing you a lot of nice things. Make sure you do have a little cash for tipping in that way. If you have several tour guides, remember they have to split the tip, and that's what one of the people were trying to tell us is there's a lot of us, we have to split this tip us big, Again, you do what you feel is right, but do remember it is customary to tip, so have a little bit of cash on hand for that. I want to tell you about the excursions that we're going to take on this cruise that's coming up in January. We will be going to Labadee, Haiti, and we will be arriving at 8 a.m. and we have booked a snorkeling safari. It's called Snorkeling Safari Excursion, and we always book as early as we can because we don't want to take the chance of not being able to get back to the ship if something happens, or not being able to do a little bit of shopping. We'd rather do our excursions early and then have the time in the afternoon or after the excursion to do our shopping and to get back to the ship in plenty of time, so we don't miss the ship. So what we did, we're arriving in Labadee, Haiti at 8 a.m. So we've booked the Snorkel Safari Excursion, and I have my notebook. Like I said in my first one, I keep notes of everything in my notebook, so I have everything together, and I'm going to kind of read from my notes on here so I get all of this information correct. Our Snorkel Safari is $45.75 each. You'd have to pay for the excursions. That's something you pay extra. That's why I book them ahead of time online. Once my husband and I kind of compare our list and decide what we want to do, we go ahead and book them online through the cruise ship, or through the independent, however we want to pay for them. Remember, if you're booking independently, the time on the islands versus the time on the ship is different. So make sure you have your times lined up right, because if you don't, you may be booking before the ship even gets to port. So make sure your timing is correct. Booking through the ship goes by their time, and they make sure that the booking is correct. You don't even have to think about timing on it. So our snorkel safari adventure starts at 10:45 a.m. and it lasts for 2 hours. We're going to, pretty much the website will give you an overview of everything that the excursion includes. So it'll say the overview is a catamaran ride to a reef, and then there'll be a guided snorkeling tour, and they'll let you feed the fish, and it'll tell you the duration of the excursion being 2 hours. Now with us, we have our own snorkel gear, and we will probably bring it with us, or we'll definitely bring it with us. I prefer to use my own. I have prescription goggles, because if I don't wear prescription goggles, I can't see my camera, and I have underwater camera. So I want to be able to see the settings on my camera so I can turn it from video to picture taken. And if I don't have prescription goggles on, I can't see the settings on my camera, and I have to hand it off to somebody else to do that. So I bring my own scuba gear so that I have my goggles so I can see. In the websites, in the cruise websites, when you're looking at the excursions, it'll give you the duration. It'll give you some highlights of what the trip is about, what the excursion is about. It'll tell you what to bring, like it'll say bring a swimsuit, bring a towel. It'll tell you what items you need to bring, and it'll tell you what you need to wear depending on what you're doing, walking shoes, or depending what the excursion is, it will tell you specifically what you need to be wearing. There'll also be some notes, and it'll tell you the physical and health warnings, like is it strenuous, will you need to be in good shape to be able to climb the mountain, or whatever excursion it is that you're going to be doing. Is there age limits, like do you have to be over a certain age? Our children welcome on the excursion. They'll give you age limits there, and also give you weight limits. Some things are limited to 350 pounds or less. Usually if you're under 350 pounds, you're pretty safe, but there are some weight limits to some of the things that you can book for excursions. And then whether or not you have to sign a waiver. And most activities, if they're strenuous or adventurous under the adventure category, you'll probably have to sign a waiver to do them. I think most of them that we do are semi-strenuous, but most of them we usually end up having to sign a waiver. And you can, I believe you can sign that through the cruise before you even go on the excursion, so you have your waiver signed and you take it with you. And then there's also guest reviews, so you can look and see what other guests have said about the excursion, and you can kind of make your decision, is it something you really want to do? You'll have good reviews and bad reviews. May depend on the time of year, may depend on the weather. Take your time to read through the reviews and see what people are saying, and decide whether or not it's something that you really might or might not want to do. There might be something in the review that you say, well, maybe that's not something I want to do. So I always take the time to read the guest reviews. Our second port will be in Falmouth, Jamaica, and we're going to arrive in the port at 10:30 a.m. and we've booked our excursion at 11 o'clock. Our excursion in Jamaica will be a bamboo rafting on the Martha Brae. It's a 3.5-hour excursion. It's $79.75 per person. So we arrive at 10:30. The excursion starts at 11 and it goes to 2:30. And it starts by a stroll through Martha's herb garden. And I guess the herb garden is for medical reasons. And so she'll explain her garden and the different herbs in her garden. And that should be really pretty, walking through that and seeing that. Once you get through the garden, you go to the, I guess, the river area where the rafts are. They're 30-foot rafts. And you sit on them, and there's a guide on the raft that'll take you down the river and it talk to you about the area and show you different things. And the rafting ride is about an hour and a half. So I did see some footage of that. People have some of that on YouTube, and I did watch some of that. And I love looking at the excursions and then going onto YouTube and finding people who have done the excursions. And I kind of look and see what they're doing and see if it looks like it's fun. And that's where a lot of times I'll get a lot of my my assistance from in choosing my excursions, is by checking out your videos on YouTube, what you've already done, and seeing if I think it's something that I physically can do and I can enjoy. But that'll be our Jamaica excursion, and we do love doing excursions when we're on the islands. The ship departs Jamaica at 6 p.m., so we have plenty of time. The excursion gets done at 2:30. We have plenty of time to do some shopping and get back on the ship. Our third cruise port for this trip on the Oasis of the Sea will be Cozumel, Mexico. And this is our second time we've been in Cozumel. The first time we were in Cozumel, we did an ATV adventure, which was a lot of fun. We got very dirty and we enjoyed every minute of it. We arrive in Cozumel at 8 a.m. and we're going to do a discover scuba diving. And we did some snuba, which is where you're hooked to the air tank and you have the hose, and the air tank is on a raft. We did that in Grand Caymans a couple of years ago, and we truly loved that adventure. We got to be underwater for an hour, breathing through the regulator and not having to come up, and we loved it. And when we saw that Mexico had a beginner scuba diving, that's something we really, really wanted to do. So this excursion is $99.75 per person. It lasts 2.5 hours, and it begins at 9 a.m. So, you know, it starts, the ship arrives at 8. We have to be at the excursion by 9, and it lasts 2.5 hours. It says there's 45 minutes of instruction, kind of get you used to using the equipment, and then you dive down to the depth of 25 foot, which excuse me, I am thrilled about. I'm so excited about doing this. I love being underwater, and I love new experiences like this. So I'm very excited about the scuba diving. And of course, all of our excursions, we're going to take video and share on YouTube with everybody. We get done our excursion around 11:30, and then the ship doesn't depart Cozumel until 7 p.m. So we actually have time to do another excursion if we want to, or, you know, we may do a little bit of shopping. We don't really need a whole lot in Cozumel because we've already got some souvenirs from our last trip there. So we may just go and hang out on a beach, maybe do a little snorkeling or sunbathing or something like that. But that is what we have planned for our trip in January for our excursions. I don't know that I have any more tips. What have you done on cruises? Is there anything on these ports you can recommend? Something that we probably shouldn't miss, and maybe we'll go and check it out. I thank you for watching again, and I'll link my last video to this on port shopping so that you can check that one out too. Keep checking me out. I'm going to have a new video on pre-cruise video every Tuesday until we leave on our trip, and I've got some great subjects for the videos lined up. So remember to subscribe and like and leave your comments below, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. Thank you.